Hello, everyone, and welcome to the second episode of GovCast. I'm Isaac Kennard. Today I'm here with my co-host, Isaac Angels Playkosh. Today we will be discussing public safety in Lexington, and we will be interviewing Lexington's Public Safety Commissioner, Kenneth Armstrong. So, Isaac, what are your thoughts on public safety in Lexington?
I think public safety is a tremendously important part of any city or anything, with Lexington also being one of the biggest cities in Kentucky. There's, of course, a lot of different safety that needs to be done to protect the people in it. And yet, with all the safety that has been supplied by the government, a lot of times the safety features are not fully understood by the people in the city, such as the traffic cameras at traffic lights.
Yeah, we've got the Lexington Police Department has access to license plate reading cameras, so they tag all the license plates on cars, and that has been used to find a very large amount of stolen vehicles and has been very helpful when tracking down suspects and other things. But a lot of people, I know I heard someone say, oh, what if someone's got a grudge out against this person and they go and use that, or they bribe someone to use that so they can go and find them. But there are precautions put in place to prevent that, and if that ever were to happen, I think everyone involved would lose their job.
Mm-hmm. I think also with that, there's a lot of difficulties to understand what is going to be used it as. And I understand that people are scared of like what's going to happen to themselves. Yet also, with how much benefits it brings, it comes to see that the negative parts aren't being used, and the negative parts aren't even being seen, and get canceled out by the positives, the new ads, because they would protect people instead of hurt people.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts on the opiate pandemic and stuff?
I think that opioids have had a large impact on Kentucky. They're one of the worst drug issues here. Just opioids are very, very prominent when it comes to drug use and overdoses across the U.S. It's just because it's really easy to get hooked on them. So I think our police department, I know, works to try and shut down some stuff and confiscate the illegal uses of those, especially fentanyl being a large thing more recently. When used medicinally, it can be fatal, but especially if you take a pill that is an illegal substance and it's been laced with fentanyl, it takes less than a grain of table salt of fentanyl to kill you. Mm-hmm. So I think that's just a very large issue here that is being worked on to prevent the spread of it and prevent it from hurting people.
How do you think the departments for public safety are doing to help prevent it or help protect the people of Kentucky and Lexington specifically?
I know our police department has a lot of important policies in place that prevent certain like bad events from happening. They're very prominent throughout the city. You'll see them very often. It's not uncommon to just be driving around somewhere and see several police cars on your drive out. And it's just because we've got people covering areas of the city, just making sure that nothing's going on, making sure that they'll be close if a call goes out, so they can have the fastest response time.
Mm-hmm. Do you think with a lot of responses and a lot of the cameras around, do you think they could use AI to even have a opportunity to connect that with what's happening with crime or anything so the AI is able to observe something much quicker than a regular civilian would?
I'm not entirely sure about that. I know AI could be used for writing policies or report writing.
Mm-hmm.
Not entirely sure about how you explained it, though.
Yeah,
Never really thought about that before.
Yeah, I was just wondering because with the police department having the ability to have cameras almost at every single stoplight, able to recognize different license plate and different stuff like that to find stolen cars. Would it be possible to use those cameras with an AI system to observe maybe those cars being stolen or seeing people being abusive in public that could endanger a person or the surrounding people?
I know that advancements in technology have had a very large impact on the capabilities of police departments across the country. Just helping with investigations, piecing together information, like we were talking about earlier, license plate readers and traffic cameras, or helping to pin down stolen cars, or help with searches for people who are a suspect in an ongoing investigation. But it'll be interesting to see what Commissioner Armstrong has to say about this stuff, because he's worked with the police department for a while before coming on as the Commissioner of Public Safety.
Mm-hmm. That'd be very interesting. I'm excited to talk to him.
Yep. All right, so tell us some about yourself and your career choices and how you got to where you are as the Commissioner of Public Safety.
Right. Well, I started off in a small town, Vine Grove, Kentucky. I was born in 1969, well before you gentlemen were, and went to high school at North Hardin High School and found an interest in community service, specifically law enforcement as a young boy, and followed that dream to go to Eastern Kentucky University, where I got my bachelor's degree. And I was blessed in the fact that right whenever I got out of college, I was hired by the Lexington Police Department, where I served for over 25 years. Retiring as an assistant chief with the police department, I was lucky enough to then get a job with another job in Lexington government as the director of code enforcement, and I retained that position for about 2.5 years. And then the opportunity came along that the Commissioner of Public Safety at the time, and this is 2018, left office to actually run for mayor. Sadly, he was unsuccessful, but I was given an opportunity to fill the spot for 9 months by then Mayor Jim Gray. At the end of Mayor Gray's term, Mayor Gordon took over as being mayor, and she was gracious enough to give me the opportunity to stay, and I've remained in that position, or in this position, since then. I've been the commissioner since I think February of 2018. I was the youngest ever Commissioner of Public Safety, and now I am the longest continuous serving Commissioner of Public Safety for the city of Lexington. So, always took an interest in public service and public safety. Worked numerous jobs throughout my career. I was a dispatcher at one time. I did a number of things, worked major events, worked every shift, every holiday, every bureau in the police department at that time, and since that I've been blessed to work with some great people in this current position.
How have the advancements in technology in recent years benefited Lexington Police Department?
If you're specifically talking about the police department in that question, technology is a great thing. We refer to it as a force multiplier. What that means is the more technology you can use in your work, it reduces the amount of time that may have required manual labor, for a lack of a better term, in the past, whether it's doing reports, doing investigative techniques, the utilization of traffic cameras or license plate readers over the years has significantly helped in being able to investigate crimes, solve crimes, and identify suspects. It's also helped a lot with body-worn cameras and the accountability to the citizens that the police department serves on a daily basis, to ensure them that the officers are performing their duties in a professional and non-biased manner as best as they can as humans. And I think that's really helped with credibility as well. The police department actually started using those body-worn cameras before there was such a push at the federal level to do that, so they were well ahead of the curve on that. Again, those conversations probably started back in 2014, which is before it became such almost a requirement in law enforcement today. There's other things whenever it comes to technology, whether it's drones or utilization of them for different things to assist in major crime scenes. And then there's also the ability to map scenes through a computer. It used to, in the old days, they used actually have to say a homicide scene or an accident scene. They would actually have to draw things and make it to scale, and it was very time consuming and hard, and there were mistakes all the time. But they actually have equipment now that will do a 360 scan of it and give you a three-dimensional image of that scene, whether it's an accident or a crash or a crime scene, which really cuts down and gives the police department a better way to actually address incidents and problems that they face.
With AI increasing every day and advancements in it, has there been an increase in using AI with public safety and police investigation? Specifically
in the police department, it's only at a rudimentary level right now. And, you know, the AI, for instance, you know, in my position as Commissioner of Public Safety, I have responsibility over police, fire, corrections, emergency management, and E911. So you're talking about when police staff are roughly about 1,600 people. So each one of those divisions utilize technology in a different way. When you talk about AI in the police department, it's very rudimentary right now. I know it is a very hot topic in the culture right now, but just like any new technology, you want to sit back and watch and see how it develops, what it does. You don't want to get in too early, because then it can cause you issues in the long run. I see upside for AI, especially, for instance, in our enhanced 911, where they answer the phone calls. I think that's an opportunity for us in the next couple of years. But I don't know specifically in the police department right now any projects that have to do with utilizing AI too much.
Mm-hmm. So, understaffing is a very large issue in the Lexington Police Department. Why are they so understaffed, and what is being done to try and help increase recruitment?
So, being brutally honest, there's a couple of different things. Back in, 2020, law enforcement on a national scale received a number of black eyes because of incidents that occurred across the United States that didn't necessarily involve the Lexington Police Department or police departments in this area. Now, with that being said, we had an incident right up the road in Louisville. But whenever it comes to some professions, and you're talking about policing specifically, the saying is you have to pay for the sins of others sometimes. So that negativity associated with those events, horrible events that should have never occurred, let me clarify that, have had a significant impact on the number of people that are interested in becoming officers, specifically police officers. With that being said, we've also seen a dearth of individuals between the ages of about 21 and 28, 29 that aren't interested in public service as a whole, because we have staffing issues throughout government in different positions because there's that lack of individuals that want to go into public service for whatever reason it is, whatever it is. Now, what we're trying to do to combat that is there's always this consideration about pay and benefits and things, and those have been addressed. But we are, as a matter of fact, right before I met with you gentlemen, I had a meeting with a company here in Lexington to better promote public safety as a whole for individuals to be recruited. What we found over the years, ironically, is the best recruiters for any job, whether it's police, fire, corrections, is actually the employees themselves. The ones that enjoy the work, and then they talk to friends or relatives or just people that they meet on the street and encourage them to do recruiting. In some of the other divisions, we've actually made some efforts to pay employees a recruitment bonus if they're able to bring someone in and they become a full-time member of that division. That's something for the police department we've discussed over the time, but we've increased the amount of social media posts and videos and things like that, and whether it's more old school with Facebook, or we're trying Instagram or TikTok or Reels or any of those things, we've seen an explosion of that, especially since 2020, because during 2020, when we were all socially distancing, we couldn't go out to recruit fairs, which used to be the old way of doing things. Now, that's not saying we don't continue to do that, but we really use as many different social media or traditional media outlets to get the message out there about how good the positions are, what an opportunity it is to serve your fellow human, and also benefits, whether it's retirement, which is becoming more and more rare in not only the private sector, not only the public sector, but almost extinct in the private sector. If I'm saying, I think I may have got those backwards, but I apologize. But talking about those kind of things and the benefits of having a job and working as part of the family and as a team member for the police department or fire or whatever it happens to be.
With drugs having a large effect on communities, and with the opioid pandemic near us, how has the opioid epidemic affect public safety in Lexington?
Well, if we're talking about public safety as a whole, the biggest impact we've had, honestly, is on our EMS or fire services due to the number of increased calls for service. Whether that's specifically related to an overdose or if it's complications associated with the use of the drug anyway. What I mean by that is it affects your immune system, so you're more likely to get sick from something else. That then increases the likelihood of having to call for services. The biggest change, I started in public safety back in the 80s, believe it or not. And the one thing that I think that philosophically what's really changed over the years, and things whenever it comes to the abuse of illegal substances or drugs, it's kind of a conundrum in the fact that for 5 years it will be one, for 5 years it'll be another, and then it may rotate back and everything. But the biggest difference whenever it comes to the opioid crisis is we as a society have accepted the fact. This is something that Chief Weathers, who's the chief of police with the police department, and I used to discuss when we were just rookies on the police department together, that it's actually more of a societal, medical issue than it is a crime issue. Yes, the likelihood of increasing or the crime can be affected by excessive drug use by the society as a whole or the community you serve, but ultimately it is a health issue that has to be addressed. And the big change there is being able to work with community partners on getting people clean, getting them the right kind of services they need. Whenever they get out of jail, hopefully they'll be able to get a job and put them in a position where they don't feel the need to go back and use those types of substances in the past. And drugs, whether you brought up opioid, but back in the 90s it was crack, and we had prescription medications and everything like that has a very profound effect. The biggest difference, though, is whenever it comes to things like fentanyl, which is something that is extremely dangerous, more dangerous than anything back in the 80s or 90s we were facing, even more dangerous, and heroin, in my opinion, is that one-time shot could kill you. You're off of it for a couple months, and you get back on it, and it could kill you. It's a very alarming thing. Very alarming.
Mm-hmm. So, domestic violence is a large issue here also. What's being done to reduce domestic violence rates?
Well, the court system and social services take a big part of that, to be honest with you. Public safety, whether it's police or fire, work with those type of services to help remove victims from situations, whether it's after we get the call or before, encouraging victims to come forward and ask for assistance. There's different types of domestic violence. A lot of people just think that it's an assault. Well, there's verbal, mental anguish that can be caused that can have even just as bad as an impact as a physical assault. So we work with a lot of different community partners, Greenhouse 17, Salvation Army, Hope Center, things like that, to educate the victims and, honestly, potential suspects on the dangers of domestic violence. And we work with the court systems that make sure that whenever an individual actually commits this crime, that they don't just spend a couple days in jail and then get to walk out the door and, the clock starts over, as it were, to make sure that they're getting counseling to whatever brought this about, whether it's going back to the drug abuse or alcohol abuse or mental health issues, or because mental health issues is actually the thing that we face is the biggest issue in public safety for the most part right now, where we're talking about operationally. So it's of extreme importance. Laws have changed over the years. Whenever I first started in public safety, for an officer to arrest an individual for domestic violence, they would have to have observed it. Well, the likelihood of that was so minute that luckily back in the 90s, the legislature up in Frankfurt changed that so it could be a probable cause arrest, which essentially means that as long as there's enough evidence there, the officer didn't have to see it. And that has made a big difference too. So continuous funding and grants and everything for these victims and working with them to get them away from dangerous situations is something that we really work on with our Crimes Against Children or our detective bureau. I'm sorry, I'm forgetting the exact name of the unit right now, but the domestic violence unit essentially does that on a full-time basis, has social workers assigned to it.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me.
Moving on to schools, for school safety is a large concern across America. What is being done in Lexington to ensure our schools are safe and kept safe as possible?
Well, I'm sure you gentlemen know that Lexington is unique in the fact that it has its own police department in the schools. It's the Division of Law Enforcement, Fayette County Public Schools Division of Law Enforcement. And the chief over there, Chief Schaefer. So the key here is that we have a great relationship with Chief Schaefer and his folks. They are primarily responsible for the safety inside the school, with the understanding that if they ever need our assistance, they have the ability to, whether it's via cell phone or radio or whatever it is, request us to come to a location and help them as best they can. We do joint training scenarios with them as well to talk about different ways to increase the likelihood of, if unfortunately there was a significant event, what kind of response we'd be able to give jointly to deal with the event in the best and quickest possible manner. So we have a great relationship with them. Again, Chief Schaefer, I talk to him on the phone quite frequently, to be honest with you. You're very lucky to have him as a chief over there. And I've found all the officers. Now, with that being said, there's a huge number of officers that are retired Lexington police officers that are now working in the schools too. So you have that, that cross-pollination in a way individuals know each other. They know how, you just have a better working relationship with them. Chief Schaefer knows if he ever needs anything, he can call us, but I feel pretty comfortable with the resources he has, that they're doing a very good job in keeping our schools here in Fayette County safe.
So, what advice would you give to high school students about understanding more when it comes to public safety and what they should do to help better our public safety?
Well, if they have an interest in it and really want to understand it, each of the divisions have, most of the divisions in public safety have the ability to do a ride-along. And what that is, that provides a citizen or a resident the opportunity to actually, whether it's in the police or fire or whatever it is, spend some time and actually see what the job looks like so you have a better understanding of it. Being educated on topics like some of the things that we talked about today, and I appreciate all the questions you've asked up to this point, because I think they're pretty poignant and there are things that people need to consider and think about as they go forward. But the biggest thing they can do about public safety is to understand that a vast majority of these individuals, I'm talking about 99%, their biggest desire is to help other folks and to make our city as safe as possible. And while errors do occur, there's a difference between the error of the heart and the error of the head. And we have, and I'm going to sound like I'm being egotistical here or boastful, but I would put our Division of Public Safety up against any Department of Public Safety in the United States right now. And I'm not being, that may sound kind of boastful, but I'm not. I think, I've had the opportunity to travel throughout the United States, spend time with different police departments, different fire departments, been to a number of different jails and visited those and everything. And I really think, especially as it applies to the leadership we have in public safety in those divisions, that we have some of, if not the best, directors and chiefs in the United States right now. So,
I know my dad works with the Lexington Police Department in policy currently, and there are many other police departments from across the country who reach out and ask about how they can improve their policies, and they look at ours to help do that.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And whenever you're talking about the police, it's not just the police department. It's called reaching out for best practices. And what that is that, say you're using your father as an example, someone wants to write a policy about whatever. They'll reach out to various other departments that they consider to be the gold standard of policy or how those things are done. And we get those kind of requests and those kind of contacts for all, excuse me, for all our divisions right now, whether it's police, fire, corrections, E911, emergency management. People quite frequently look at our folks as subject matter experts, especially within the state itself, because, we are the second biggest entity. Again, our public safety makes up roughly about 1,600 people when fully staffed. So they realize that not only do we have a lot of exposure to it, but we are very professional in what we do, and people appreciate the effort that we put forth. They also know that we're willing to help. They call and ask for help. There's no hoops to jump through. There's nothing there. We'll provide whatever assistance we can to them.
Mm.
Well, thank you so much for meeting with us.
Oh, it's my pleasure, gentlemen. I hope this goes well, and if you have any follow-up or any other questions or anything like that, feel free to contact me via email, and we'll get back together. So thank you very much for your time today, and I appreciate the opportunity to talk to you about something as important as public safety.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We really appreciate you taking the time for this.
It's my pleasure, gentlemen. Y'all take care now.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Well, I thought that was very interesting, some of the things he had to say about public safety, and he knows so much about it. I feel like had we talked to anyone else but him, we wouldn't have been able to get just that much information.
He's been in the police department for so long, it makes sense why he's commissioner, and also with all of his thoughts on how things are done and what he's been able to implicate is tremendous about everything he's done. It's also with one of his thoughts on the reach out process of the police department, to be able to show that they're not this terrifying group that does wrong. They're wanting to show that we're like everyone else. They're trying to reach out to people, trying to reach out for social media, reach out in person at like Salvation Army, to be able to show either some things will happen and how to either prevent it or tell people more about it, to be able to spread more information and also to be more in the community.
Yeah, and I feel like that is a really big thing with police departments and modern times, right? Because all these crazy incidents where a couple police officers or one police officer even would do something bad that was absolutely horrible, that resulted in loss of life or disability, but so there's been a lot of negativity that has been thrown onto police departments across the U.S. in recent years, and I think that reaching out and being part of the community is extremely important to have a good reputation and not be scary figures in dark uniforms with gun belts and tasers and batons and handcuffs.
It's able to show that you are an actual human being and not just...
And that you want to help people.
Your whole point is to be helpful. Your whole point is to not be the enforcers, but be the providers, be the helpers, want to make you feel safe.
Yeah. I think it was really nice how he was talking about how when it comes to domestic violence, they work with, I think it's the Hope Center, to reach out to younger kids and potential victims, about domestic violence, and just inform them of the dangers of it and how it can really affect people.
Mm-hmm. I think it has a large impact on not just the kids, but also like parents, able to see that these people are not what they're seeing on TV. They're people who want to help. They're people who want to make you feel safe, not someone who's wanting to put you in jail.
Yeah.
I think that's a really big part of all of this. And it hurts to see that a lot of our police departments are seen like this, but I'm happy that they're working on it, trying to become more part of that community, more part of showing that they're not scary, they're wanting to help.
Yeah. Well, I think that this interview and this episode really goes into extreme depth about some of the public safety in Lexington. It is something that I think people should know more about that maybe they don't. And it's something that I feel very strongly about, as my father's a police officer in Lexington. I know.
I think it's also very beneficial for everyone who don't see us every day, but it can really affect them in the long run.
Yeah. Lots of different things that we talked about today are extremely large issues, not just here, but across Kentucky, across the country.
Everywhere.
Yeah, that need to be addressed and openly talked about and discussed so that people can know more about them. And
I'm really happy with what's being done in Lexington, Kentucky to help people.
Yeah. All right, well, thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next time.